Hello, welcome back again. Just even today to the Tyrant-Den. Um, if you're watching all my stuff, hello, welcome to the first time. Um, you'll notice that the Homestar Runner toon reaction I did today was very short. Um, so I thought today would be a good chance to go ahead and test a theory, as it were. Previously, the videos I've done with the most views, which is to say like 20, um, was my reaction to an overly sarcastic productions video. So I thought, um, just to try things out, I would once again react to a video that people actually care about and that I hadn't seen before. So, food theory. Why does everything taste like chicken? Okay, we'll pretend the answer to that isn't the Matrix.
How is everything tasting?
Oh, this is great chicken.
That's not chicken.
Are you sure? Tastes like chicken to me.
I assure you.
Oh no. Oh, what have I done?
He ate a bear. He ate a teddy bear, basically. He ate He ate a robot. He ate the ghost of a dead child. He ate goodness knows what had been growing in that for ages, because that's like a whole thing with these, that they're all moldy and disgusting. And I get the everything tastes like chicken theory, but there's like a million things that would taste like other than chicken. Honestly, they're stretching that joke a little for me. And I can't quite get past the idea that technically he's eating a dead child. That definitely warrants this reaction.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the only show that won't chicken out when it comes to meaty mysteries. We've all heard it before. This tastes like chicken. That tastes like chicken. Heck, at this point, I'm probably
Like, I haven't had alligator nuggets. I've had alligator sausage. Actually, I might be thinking a lot more. Alligator does taste like chicken. Rocky Mountain oysters, I guess they taste like chicken. I mean, you notice the texture more than anything else. Alligator's a little gamier, at least stringier.
sure my own foot would taste like chicken. If only I could cook it properly. It's a phrase that's managed to permeate.
Don't go for the foot. It's like it's more bone than you think. There's no fat in there. Don't go for the bone. Don't go for the foot. I mean, like, maybe if you want to make a soup stock, but like that's all it's good for.
Every corner of media.
They really do taste like chicken when prepared properly. It's a chicken.
Tastes like chicken.
Except for this guy in Hell's Kitchen, apparently.
Tasted like a meat tortellini with a bit of sweated onions in the background.
Oh, I love that clip. Anyway, the phrase "it tastes like chicken" is so common.
I wonder. I need to see that clip. I wonder. I bet he was eating chicken or something. Maybe that's it. Talk about overcomes. I love that challenge. I think I'd be good at that.
I mean, at this point, I kind of feel bad even doing an episode on the topic, but my intellectual curiosity has no shame. Why does everyone insist that everything tastes like chicken? At first, I was just curious about where the phrase started. It's like a meme that existed before there were even memes. Well, it turns out that the same guy who mistook North America for India might have also been responsible for mistaking pork chops for drumsticks. That's right, it's none other than everyone's favorite.
I mean, the flavor is similar, adjacent. I don't even know if I go there. There's a clearly different smell between pork and chicken, which is also incidentally why I would insist if you ate a person they wouldn't taste like chicken. They taste like pork, and that's. We'll assume that's not my personal experience. That's just what everyone says.
Geographically challenged explorer Christopher Columbus. Rumor has it that he once used the phrase to describe the taste of iguana, which is commonly found all over the Caribbean where he landed, and coincidentally also appeared in more pictures than I did in my recent vacation to Mexico.
I had a college professor once who insisted that what Christopher Columbus was actually looking for was not a another passage to India, but he actually thought he had found a map to the Garden of Eden. I don't know where he was going with that one.
I guess that means Columbus didn't care for them too much because their descendants are seriously thriving. Since then, fictional foods such as the grub from the
See that? I hope this one gets popular enough. If this was like on the History Channel, you'd get a whole bunch of memes coming after that, which is just a bunch of like dodos and Galapagos turtles and stuff looking at iguanas being all salty about it.
Matrix, Fallout's iguana on a stick, and the regular show's Every Meat Burrito are among the fraction of the items that have been bestowed this culinary honor. Of course, that fact alone is enough to ruffle my theorist feathers. All of those are vastly different dishes, but they all somehow share a common taste? That's a red flag right there. Just how is that even possible? Is it possible? Is it all just in our heads, or is there some actual science to the idea that tons of other things actually taste like chicken? Instead of letting this pop culture urban legend peck away at my sanity, I want to figure this out. And to start, I need to break down just how chicken gets its taste and why that taste is so universal. First, what are we
Hey, if you're actually watching this, say in the comments, does pork taste like chicken to you? Because it just doesn't for me.
actually eating when we're eating chicken? Well, meat is any flesh or animal part that we consume, but in the US, we primarily think of meat as the muscle tissue of an animal. That drumstick is basically your calf muscle. The wing is a nice mouthful of bicep. Just like different muscles in your body are used differently though, different animal muscles develop different textures because of where they are in the body and how they're used. This means that when it comes to taste, how you handle your meat matters. Probably should have rephrased that one. Nope, it's recorded, let's move on. And it's not just about where your meat comes from, but the taste of the meat can also be impacted by a huge range of other factors, including what the animal ate before landing on your plate, how it was aged, and even the temperature that was cooked at. Starting with cut. When you enjoy your winner chicken dinners, you'll have 4 main options to choose from: breast meat, wings, thighs, and legs, with thighs and legs considered to be dark meat. Dark meat is, as the name suggests, darker than white meat, and it carries that slightly reddish or pinkish color even when it's been thoroughly cooked. This is thanks to a high concentration of myoglobin.
Incidentally, I am a dark meat guy, but my brother did get me a little more appreciative of the flavors you can get from white meat, if you're really careful with them.
An oxygen-carrying protein that's responsible for providing muscles with the oxygen required for exercise and movement. Since chickens have found themselves on nature's no-fly list, every day for these little suckers is leg day, meaning that more myoglobin is going to be present in their legs than anywhere else in their body. On the other hand, both the wings and the breasts are what we consider to be white meat. White meat is generally lighter in color, it's leaner in fat, and as a result, it dries out more easily when it's cooked. This is traditionally the cut of chicken that we associate with that chickeny taste, whatever that means, because there's no extra myoglobin in that area to give it an irony flavor. But you can't talk about flavor without also talking about smell. Have you ever
I guess I can see how you would think the chicken breast tastes like pork. I don't know. I've had some fantastic chicken breasts. I've had some fantastic pork, but my brain always remembers the worst experiences there. And that always comes down to texture, and it's both dry and kind of stringy, but it's still different.
ever heard of something being aromatic? Most of us just think of this as something that smells good, or just has a strong smell, but actually it means that it contains molecules that belong to a specific group, the aromatic group, hence the name. These molecules have specific structures that interact with your little nose buds to produce a smell. So the more of these that are swimming around in a meat, the more likely that meat is going to have itself a specific taste. There are aromatics present in almost all the food that we eat, but the different profiles of those molecules make us taste and smell different things when we eat them. In 2013,
I feel like this is the point where I should pretend to be an expert and quote a bunch of stuff that you guys should probably all already know about this, but I just don't.
the Asian Journal of Animal Science produced one of the first papers to summarize a lot of the aromatic compounds that go
Yeah, like a guy who's just randomly watching one of the epic rap battles of history and suddenly pretends to be a history expert. That's how I came to
into chicken, but you can see that they contribute lots of different flavors, all in different ratios. All the gobbledygook molecules on the left translate into all kinds of different flavors on the right, from your traditional flavors like meaty and fatty to a few others that you wouldn't really see coming, violet-like, sulfurous, or my favorite, roasty, which makes me think that we covered the chicken with a lot of marshmallow. Different meats and different cuts of the same meat will have vastly different ratios of these aromatics.
I want to see if I can find that. This one was a little bit longer.
Different meats and different cuts of the same meat will have vastly different flavors like meat.
There we go. Okay, so I'm looking at some of my favorite ones here because I love honey. So that one's phenylacetaldehyde. Peach-like is why declitone. There we that. Then we got the fatty ones, which is trans fats, I guess. Fatty tallowy. 2 trans 4 cis. Whoa. Decadadenol. You know. I am not qualified either on the cultural side or the chemistry side to comment on 2 trans 4 cis decadadenol. But I assumed if you were, there's an awesome joke you could make. Anyway. Boop, boop.
Experience different flavors. Many of these molecules are released or break down when combined with heat, meaning that most of them aren't reaching your nose or mouth until the meat is cooked. That means that we're not just looking at what's inside a raw chicken, we need to understand what's happening.
You know, that's why you're cooking it, you get a little more smell. As it starts to smoke and the smell changes, that explains that.
When you slap that breast on the grill or in a pan. So what's actually going on in that broiler of yours to make chicken go from this gross floppy jellyfish to a 5-star dinner? Well, there are 2 major chemical reactions that are releasing most of the flavors that you taste when you bite into chicken. One is called lipid oxidation and the other is called the Maillard reaction, which means it's time to roll up your sleeves because those are some big old sciencey looking words. If these sound complicated, you're not that wrong. These are reactions that you wouldn't typically study unless you're taking some pretty serious college chemistry classes, but we only need to know a few things about them, so don't faint away just yet. And best of all, once you learn these, you'll know a whole lot about everything you cook because these reactions don't just happen in chicken. They happen in almost every kind of meat you eat, even in non-meat food. Just think of how smart you're gonna look at Uncle Ron's next backyard barbecue when you start breaking out the Maillard reaction facts. If that's not a reason to subscribe, I don't know what is. Impress your Uncle Ron, hit the subscribe button. We're starting off easy.
Dude, any of the Uncle Rons I've known would already know that. Like, I would go in there and try to act all smart, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, because you gotta do this, and then you gotta do this. Yes, I actually took that into account, which is why I'm using this kind of oil on this kind of wood. I mean, you gotta buy this kind of stove right here if you want to induce that properly. And by the way, have I ever told you my joke about the 2 trans 4 cis dilicidides? Oh boy.
With lipid oxidation, which is pretty straightforward. What's another word for lipid? Fat. What's oxidation? Literally just adding oxygen to something. So what is lipid oxidation? It is adding oxygen and fat together. Look, chemistry is so easy. When you add oxygen to fats and fatty acids in meat, it breaks down the fatty acid chains and changes their structure. This also happens when meat spoils, and that's not so pretty, but when it happens because you've added heat, the meat cooks and the structural phospholipids, just a fancy way of saying the fat in the chicken, break down and release little aromatic molecules called aldehydes that fly all over the place, bumping into other molecules in the chicken. Those aldehydes.
I think the big takeaway you should be doing this is, again, the usual thing you're going to get when the more chemistry and bio you take, which is that it's kind of badass that we survive on oxygen, because oxygen seems to kind of just destroy everything.
Then go on to take a major starring role in part 2 of our epic chicken cooking adventure, the Maillard reaction. You might have heard this term tossed around a lot. It's like a culinary name drop these days, and it's associated with lots of cooking techniques, like caramelization of meat, a part of cooking that makes stuff crispy and brown on the outside. While chefs certainly toss this name around a lot, most of them are probably only doing it because they heard Alton Brown mention it one time on an episode of Good Eats. I can say with a fair amount of certainty that most chefs don't fully understand what they're talking about. Yep.
I'll actually try to add this one in. Oh, it was only 5 seconds.
Yep,
No,
I said that.
there.
It is a bold claim coming from a random guy on the internet who eats most of his meals at McDonald's. I recognize that fact. But the truth is that the Maillard reaction is a series of reactions that's so complex that even scientists are still trying to wrap their head around what's really going on with this thing. What we do know, though, is that these reactions happen when amino acids and sugars present in our food are transformed by heat, normally between 230 and 340 degrees Fahrenheit or 110 to 171 C. This results in mouth-watering new flavors and aromas. These are where we get the slightly sweet notes that sometimes appear in cooking, especially when we've seared a great steak or have gotten a great piece of chicken off the grill. That roasty taste is commonly associated with the Maillard reaction, and texturally we can usually tell that the meat is a little charred or has a nice crisp on the outside. Since the temperature for triggering the Maillard reaction is so high, you'll notice that it
Incidentally, this is one more reason you don't use stainless steel pans. It's just dangerous to get them hot enough to really induce that Maillard reaction. You want to go walk. Don't walk, but walk if you can't walk. with a wok.
Takes place more often when you're doing things like barbecuing, roasting, or even frying. And it's almost impossible to achieve with something like boiling. And even though we're talking about chicken right now, you'll see it all over the place once you know where to look. Did you have a cup of coffee this morning? Or maybe you ate a piece of toast? Both of these are the result of the Maillard reaction. It's responsible for the nutty, roasted flavor of coffee, and also for giving toast its slight hint of caramel. But when it comes to chicken, you can't stop there. We have one last step in creating the perfect chicken flavor profile. You see, chicken is a special animal. Not literally, these guys are just fluffy dinosaurs. They are totally insane and everywhere. But their meat gets...
Well, I mean, they're a significant animal. One of the most useful animals. I think if we remove chickens from history, that would hurt us pretty bad.
It's very special when you combine the Maillard reaction with the lipid oxidation that we talked about before. Turns out when their powers combine, or when the byproducts of the two reactions get together, we're left with one molecule that directly accounts for everything that we call chicken's signature flavor. Welcome the flavor of chicken, 2-methyl-3-furanthiol. Yep, this keyboard mash of a word right here, this is the flavor that we're referring to when we say it tastes like chicken, and it's usually referred to as 2-MF. This is called a landmarked flavor, a flavor that's extremely recognizable, present in a high ratio in chicken, and it's become a trendsetter for the food world as we know it. Studies have found that this compound gives off a meaty aroma, and that 2-MF is not only found in chicken, it's in lots of other meats as well. And here, my friends, is where our mystery all starts coming together. According to Joe Staten from the Museum of Comparative Zoology at Harvard University, other bird meat like pigeon, goose, and even quail tend to have chicken-like flavors, which is going to be expected because
I've had quail, so I know that's true. I've not had pigeon. I want to have goose. I really want. I want to be a Christmas goose family. We just haven't had enough people together in ages.
Chemically, they're undergoing the same two chemical reactions and producing our buddy 2-MF. What's less expected, though, is that exotic meats like bullfrog, kangaroo, alligator, and even iguanas all have themselves a chicken-like taste. Not because we have bad taste buds, but because of a long shared ancestry. Remember how I offhandedly mentioned a little while ago that chickens are just crazy little dinosaurs? Or that if you're eating dino nuggets, you're not really eating dinos? Well, I might have put those in there as a bit of a...
Incidentally, if you've ever got the chance to it doesn't work as well if you're just looking at photos. It can kind of work, but you really have to be in person right there looking at some chicken's feet right there. You're like, oh, okay, yeah. I'm not going to question that these are related to dinosaurs anymore. Anyone who's like, oh, I can't believe that dinosaurs had feathers. I can't believe that dinosaurs are more related to chickens than they are these cool lizards. That's just a person who hasn't seen a chicken's feet.
Right. Basically, if you go back far enough, chickens are dinosaurs, or at least they're in the ballpark. Chickens, and all birds for that matter, belong to a very wide range of animals called theropods, who all have 3 toes and hollow bones. But it turns out that other animals we sometimes eat also date back pretty far. Iguanas? You kidding me? Look at these guys. They have dinosaur written all over them. Bullfrogs, alligators, lots of members of the reptile and lizard families, all of them stem from a very long ago adjacent branch of the evolutionary tree to some of our...
They always talk about how crocodiles haven't really changed forever, but so going to the Archosaurus is actually kind of interesting. Oh, or Archosaurus came out to them. That would make more sense.
Our modern day birds at the same
Tetrapoda. Yeah, that broke off a while ago. Look at that. That's actually fascinating. Okay, so that one's wild to me. That's one thing I should actually, in my spare time, look up to. Geckos being more closely related to mammals, because I mean they're amphibians, kind of, than they are to like iguanas and stuff. Okay, that's what. Skinks, I think, would be a lizard that looks a lot like a gecko. Wild. Wild.
Building blocks inside their muscles today. Branching out past all the amphibians that you're obviously cooking on an everyday basis, all those turtles, lizards, and frogs that you're frying up on the average Tuesday, you also have a similar effect with many kinds of fish and pork. A lot of cuts of pork have a similar fat profile as chicken, leaner, lower in cholesterol, and essentially undergoing the same 2 reactions to produce the same 2-MF compound when you cook them. The cuts of pork that don't have this profile and are much fattier, like bacon, they have themselves a different flavor profile. That's because the ratio of fat to lean meat is so much higher in these cuts that 2MF is no longer the only strong flavor influence. That's why we don't say that bacon tastes like chicken. Once 2MF has competition, we immediately lose that chickeny flavor profile. Same goes with most cuts of beef, for that
I was literally just wondering, it's like, okay, how does that, why does that change over for cows, but didn't change over between pigs and frogs? What happened
same
there?
lipid oxidation and Maillard reaction are absolutely taking place, but we don't say that beef tastes like chicken because there are other flavors out competing 2MF. Iron, fat, other aromatics related to 2MF, but just different enough to produce different flavors. All of them are mixing together in a completely different ratio, giving you more of that umami flavor rather than the mild meatiness of chicken. So it turns out that the incredibly overused trope of it tastes like chicken isn't as crazy and overused as we think it is. It's just that when it comes to meats of the world, a lot of things do taste like chicken, and it all boils down to two things. The muscles that animals have last through a lot.
Technically, they don't all taste like chicken. They just all taste like pteropods.
And I mean a lot of generations of evolution. So much so that if any part of your evolutionary past once crossed with a chicken, chances are you got meat that tastes pretty similar. The other thing we've established is that our
Fatty, tallowy fatty, as opposed to fatty tallowy. Okay, so tallowy fatty is 2-trans non-needle, while fatty tallowy is 2-trans 4-cis. That's the deal. Okay, see, now I want to go out of my way to try something that's fatty tallowy and something that's tallowy fatty, just to see what's going on there. And nonanol, that's tallowy green. I love this list. I already love this list.
perception of flavor comes down to a remarkably small number of compounds. At most, the list is like 20 molecules long for meat, but at the end of the day, just 2 or 3 landmark compounds contribute
Meaty, as opposed to meat-like.
a huge amount.
There we go. So meaty is 2, and I think that's 2 or 5 dimethyl, 3 furanthal, whereas meat-like is bis. Not sure that is. Okay, I guess bis is 2-methyl, 3-furyl. Furyl. I wonder if that's like short for furanthal. Sulfide. Huh.
Amount of the flavor that we associate with our food. So when it comes to tricking our
Greater, less than 16, as opposed to meaty, which is a full 256.
tongue into thinking that we're eating chicken, it's not nearly as hard of a job as you might think. Now, I'm not saying that you should just go out there and test the limits of this. Please leave the toads and iguanas in your local area alone. But the next time you have the chance to try something exotic like an alligator nugget at the fair, or heck, your grandma's famous pork chop recipe, might as well go for it. You know exactly what you're tasting, right down to the molecule. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. And hey, if you want to impress Uncle Ron even more at the next backyard barbecue, click the video on the left, where we decide what is better, a gas grill or a charcoal grill. We're taking
I think if memory serves, though, they came to the same thing, which they said they're about the same, which you got me? A guy who thinks he's all logical and everything still thinks that can't be right. Wood chips have got to be the best. Anyway, so that's my little theory I'm testing today. See how the... Not really a theory. Experiment. See how this one turns out, too. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of these. If you want to see me kind of trying my lukewarm best, respond to food theorists and said, hey, you know what I want to see that guy responding to? I want to see him responding to a bunch of Flash animation from the aughts. That's most of what this channel is. So check that out. Subscribe if you're really interested. Or I think you can go from this one straight over to one of my... I have a good list of villain songs. Anyway, see you all tomorrow if you decide to want to keep checking my Strong Guide email responses. Otherwise, I'll be back sometime Sunday with something bigger. Maybe I'll do this again. Maybe. I'm still really putting this together. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Signing off from the Tyrant's Den.